Like and subscribe on the way in the door, my people. Welcome back to, I'm renaming this series. We're going to call this the I Grew Up During the Michael Jordan Era. And this will be part 2. So I hope you all are having a great Monday today. Before we get started, as I'm trying to make it a routine now to thank the people who gave super thanks during the week. So let's start off with doing that. First shout out to @43vert for the $5 super thanks. And he says, a few years ago, a DJ for a local classic R&B station mentioned my wife's name on the air. She talked about that for months. She has laughed her way through so many fanboy files and has enjoyed every second. That you gave us a mention was a priceless gift to someone who grew up in hardship and never really achieved or had much. She has chronic ill health, and laughter is the best medicine she can possibly have. If I could repay you more, I certainly would. Thanks, Uncommon Sense, for all that you do. No, thank you. @43vert, thank you and your wife for supporting the channel. And believe me when I tell you that comments like that is what makes doing this my pleasure. It's what makes doing this a privilege to be able to do. You know, anytime that you can affect someone's life positively, you know, that's all the thanks I could ever ask for. So again, appreciate you and your wife for the continued support. And last but not least, shout out to @InTheGroove56 with the $10 super thanks. And he says, thanks, Uncommon Sense. This video, like many that I've had the pleasure to listen to, has been a tremendous boost to us basketball fans. I've been watching and been a player in high school, college, and various playgrounds throughout Philly. This generation has no clue about the players of other eras. Athleticism defined by them is a farce and doesn't necessarily mean a player is better, and longevity is definitely not a criteria utilized as a means to greatness. You mentioned a lot of players this generation don't have a clue about. To add a few more to your list, Steve Francis, yes indeed, Bernard King, Pete Maravich, George Gervin, Nate Archibald, and I could go on. My final point on longevity, Jim Brown amassed more yards and touchdowns in 9 seasons with less games, yet it took Emmitt Smith 14+ to break his record. Yet Walter Payton was more entertaining to watch. Domination is something LeBron James has never done in his 21 years. Facts. The media has become like Fox News as seen by Trump fakes. Thanks, my brother, for your entertaining channel. Shout out again to @InTheGroove56. Much thank you for supporting the channel. And yeah, you know what he said about the channel has been a tremendous boost to us basketball fans. And this is what this is about. I mean, honestly, like I said, to me, this is why I started the channel, to be another voice speaking the truth, and at the very least, my honest opinion. And then, like I said, for those of us who grew up in that era, a little before that era, a little after that era, but more importantly, for those of us who have seen real basketball and what it looks like, it's a place for us to get together and talk facts and, learn from each other and, hopefully keep the truth alive. And then the other reason, like I said, is for the younger generation. I make a lot of jokes on this channel. Well, partly because, some of these fanboys get disrespectful. And, you know, since, you know, people are very comfortable typing behind the keyboard, you know, I can't do anything but laugh at them. Now, if we met in person, it might be a little bit different. But since the situation is what it is, you know, we just got to laugh at them. But yeah, like I said, for the younger generation, for them to know that, hey, look, if you want to be great at something, just put in the work, and that work will show your greatness. You won't have to say that. And so, you know, again, shout out to @43vert. Shout out to In the Groove 56. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. And without further ado, let's get into it. And you know, some people wrote a lot, some people wrote a little on these stories about growing up in the Jordan era, but if you took the time to write, I want to read it. So some of these are very short. Shout out to @RobertVills7552, and he just simply says, when it was a Bulls game, it would shut down the city because everyone would get home to watch. Now, he didn't put what city he was coming from. But, you know, that's not hard to believe, especially, like I said, because so many people were playing basketball during the Michael Jordan era. You know, if you were a hooper, you were going to watch some Chicago games. Next one is from @Raymond Howe. I'm assuming that's @RaymondHao 7286. And he says, from the Philippines as well. If you come here and go to our market, most of the replica jerseys being sold are MJ's. Chicago 23. It only shows how big MJ is. Hey, you know, again, whether you wrote a lot or a little, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, let us know where you're from, where you were during the Michael Jordan era. Because like I said, for me, it's about the younger generation getting a glimpse into actually seeing how Michael Jordan took the world by storm. And again, you know, I'm sorry for you fanboys and you LeBron James supporters. You know, LeBron James has never seen the kind of popularity, the kind of hurricane of popularity that Michael Jordan was. Next one is from @Michael-NY4HJ. And he says, Akron, Ohio in '90. I was 15 and hooping at Garfield High. Shout out to @Michael-NY4HJ. Appreciate your comment. All right, here's a longer one. Shout out to @5CT-XJ7FX. He says, from Santa Barbara, but grew up in the mountains near Yosemite. Almost everyone was a Lakers fan. In 1991, I was in junior high school. However, everyone knew Jordan was the greatest player ever. In 1992, I moved back to Southern California and played varsity volleyball. I played with Andy Witt, who played on the men's national team. All right. Won an NCAA championship with Stanford and played in the Olympics. He was a punk, but whatever. A lot of guys in that area played in the AVP. My coach played against Coach Kyrie in Santa Barbara when he was in high school. Back to basketball. I worked with some guy at Cottage Hospital, 95 through 03 in Santa Barbara, named Carrick DeHart. Had no idea who he was. When Magic contracted AIDS, he said he received calls from various NBA players. He mentioned Eldon Campbell, called him because those guys were really promiscuous and they were all freaking out. Anyway, that was me in the 90s. Wow. Oh, you kind of brought up some deep stuff. Yeah. The whole Magic Johnson thing, for those, well, if you grew up in the Jordan era, you definitely lived through that as well. And man, I would say a lot of people were panicking back then. You know, if you grew up, well, I would imagine most teenage boys are in the constant pursuit, in the constant chase for teenage girls. And if you grew up back then, you know when that Magic Johnson thing hit, that like shook everybody to the core. Like, you know, so yeah, that particular thing was an interesting time. And, you know, fortunately, you know, Magic Johnson, he's still alive and kicking today. But at that time, I'm sure most of us didn't think that that was going to be the case. Most of us probably didn't think that Magic Johnson would still be alive, you know, 20 years later and doing well. But shout out to @5CT-XJ7FX for that comment. You are greatly appreciated. Next one is @3Y9734. It says, good point about the variety in hip hop back then. But to the point of your video, I was in Montreal, Canada, and I've commented this on one of your previous videos, which is that the MJ commercials sold reality in the sense that we saw Jordan in the air and they sold us Air Jordans. Everyone got goosebumps watching the Be Like Mike Gatorade commercials because everybody wanted to be like Mike in one way or another. MJ's talents, gifts, skills, expertise were all on full display, and what we witnessed was undeniable. Art and mastery of the sport of basketball. Say no more. That is a fact. What we witnessed was an undeniable art and mastery of the sport of basketball. That sums it up, people. That is what we witnessed watching Jordan in the 90s. And he starts off talking about, you know, good point about the variety of hip hop. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the variety of hip hop, but just the variety of music in general was just something else. You know, again, shout out to Angry Old Hoops. But as he was, the reaction he did to my video, I noticed in the beginning he was listening to some jazz music. And so, you know, and not that and jazz still exists today, but I just felt like back in the 90s, all styles of music were much more accepted, whereas now it seems like they have really funneled down music into the most basic, mindless music possible. But yeah, back then, hip hop, like I said, was so diverse. I mean, feel like I could name 100 or 200 groups, and that's just the ones that probably most people know about. And then we're not even talking about all the one-hit wonders or the groups that didn't last that long that still had something great to contribute. You know, like the group Crucial Conflict or Tracy Lee, you know, Das EFX. I don't think they lasted too long, but they had some great albums. Yeah, I mean, it's just endless. And then not to mention all the Southern groups like Tila and 8Ball MJG. You know, they're a Southern legend for sure. I would say legend, period. But yeah, music was just so diverse. But yeah, that last statement he made, what we witnessed was undeniable art and mastery of the sport of basketball. Facts and facts. Shout out to @3Y9734. Thanks for your comment. Next one. This might be the last one. But shout out to @Blue Diablo. That's @BLUDIABLO. And he says, grew up in Jersey. Mike was drafted and started blowing up during the last couple of years of elementary school, 6th through 8th grades. And by the time I hit high school, Mike was a full-fledged superstar. His championship run started during my early college years, and cats were hooping everywhere, all capitalized. Sidebar, and one blew up like 93, 94 during Mike's first three-peat, a couple of years before Kobe hit the league. When I would come home from school during the summer, me and my boys would travel to surrounding towns and run full court all day on the days we were off from work. We called ourselves the Starting Five. The competition was definitely serious. And yeah, the popularity was definitely based on the things we saw Mike doing on the court. And Mike was always must-see TV. Another fun sidebar is that an older guy from our high school played with MJ on the 87-88 Bulls. So he was our guy by default. Lastly, as a 70s baby and 80s kid, I gotta give Dr. J, Magic, and Bird their flowers, absolutely. They were the guys when I first started watching hoops, and their era transitioned to Jordan's era almost seamlessly. I also got to give Kobe his flowers. It was hard to appreciate him at the time because it was like watching Mike 2.0. At the time, we were spoiled watching Mike and didn't realize how rare what we were seeing truly was. The 80s and 90s was the golden era in so many ways. Shout out to @BlueDiablo. Thanks for that comment. I felt inspired just reading it. Man, I'm curious. I wish you would have dropped the name, but I get it. But I wish you would have dropped the name of the guy from your high school who played with MJ on the 87-88 Bulls. That would have been exciting to know. But yeah, just confirming, he said his championship run started during my early college years, and cats were hooping everywhere. I think that's one of the hardest things to explain to the kids from this generation. I know you guys probably think we're exaggerating when we talk about that Michael Jordan literally had everyone playing basketball. And again, if you grew up back then, if you could get a glimpse of that, then you would understand why LeBron James is not even close to this guy. But Michael Jordan literally made everyone play basketball. I mean, he talks about what else did he say? He said, when we would come home from school during the summer, me and my boys would travel to surrounding towns and run full court all day on the days we were off from work. And yeah, like I said, around my town, you couldn't go to an empty court. And no matter where you went, and there's plenty of courts around here, but no matter where you went, you were going to have to wait to run some games. And then, like the guy said here, going into surrounding towns. Go to surrounding towns, everybody's still playing basketball. Like basketball, again, was part of the culture. You don't get that with LeBron James. LeBron James hasn't made basketball. Matter of fact, Steph Curry has been more influential in the game of basketball than LeBron James. But not even Steph. Like, Steph hasn't influenced the culture to where everybody is balling. Again, in my town, I still drive past those same hoops that I used to play on when I was younger, and it does something to me inside to see them completely empty. Doesn't matter what time of day I drive past, completely empty. Not even somebody running half court, let alone full court, just completely empty courts. Go to some of the gyms that I used to go to, completely empty. Like it's unfathomable to me. But again, this is what you were. The people who grew up during the 80s and 90s, this is what we know is everybody playing basketball. And you kids from the younger generation, y'all just really can't get a sense of that. But if you can imagine it, close your eyes and imagine every basketball court in your city being full of games every day. Every day. Think about what kind of player, think about the amount of greatness it takes from a player to inspire that around the whole world. And last but not least, we're going to finish this up here, but I just want to say this. I was watching one of these reaction videos from a kid, you know, he was a LeBron fan, and I slowly watched him be converted to a Jordan fan. But I think on one of the last videos that I saw of his, I think he had got done watching the Voyager video, which, you know, as great as the historic Bulls mixtape is, I think the Voyager is just like the cap off. When you watch that, that video is well put together, and some of the stuff Mike is doing on that Voyager video, it's not human. It's not humanly possible. But anyway, so he got done watching that, and I could feel it in his soul when he said this. The look on his face was of true sadness, and he said, "Man, I wish I grew up in that era." And he said it. He said, you know, I know watching these highlights is one thing, but I can't even imagine what it was like growing up and getting to witness that. And when he said that, I felt him. I was like, yeah, young kid. Yeah, you missed out. But this is why we do this, because I feel like we keep doing this, keep putting the truth out there, and it may inspire some young kid. It may make them want to be that competitive force. You know, it may make them make Michael Jordan your sole inspiration of competitiveness. Well, not just Michael, but a lot of guys from back then. Michael, Bird, Magic, you know, it was just a much more competitive era. But anyway, we are going to hold up here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you missed out on the opportunity to put your story in the first video, feel free to drop it here. Like I said, I'm just doing them in order. So, you know, after I get done with the original video where people drop their comments, I'll move on to the videos after that where people continue to drop their stories. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. You all have a truly fantastic day, and I will see you next time. All right.